Welcome to episode 13 of Let the Story Write Itself. Today I'm continuing with the part where I've been in Toronto for a month, and this is in February 2016. If you haven't listened to the previous episodes to get the full story of how this moment came to be, then I recommend starting at episode Come Full Circle. And then fast forward, I'm now in Toronto after having taken a 4-day train ride from Vancouver. And now I'm getting the idea to take a one-way plane ride to Spain. And where this is the part of listening to intuition is that I never really had the desire to go to Spain, or like I never had any reason to. So similar to coming to Toronto, I never had a conscious decision idea in my mind, oh, I want to go to Toronto. In fact, it was almost the opposite. And interestingly enough, like in school, I had learned French, so I actually would have more of an inclination to go to France, or which I had been to at this point. So to be called to go somewhere like Spain, it wasn't particularly like somewhere that was on my bucket list, or not that I even necessarily had a bucket list, because I didn't necessarily even think that I wanted to travel per se. So all of this was just me being in the flow and going with, somehow I had started tuning in more to my intuition, because I had found that the other way felt quite effortful. So if I go back to when I was 17 and I was just on the brink of university and I was at the orientation, and I got a very clear feeling and message that I did not feel good. And it's this very simple feeling. Do you feel good or do you not? And that's like the signal from the universe, and your own alignment, your own inner compass alignment is really the compass that's guided by this simple two-word phrase. Do you feel good? And sometimes it sounds, I think part of it is a conditioning that if you feel like you don't necessarily feel good, sometimes it's that conditioning that you're taught, like, oh, well, you need a struggle or something. And I've come to realize that that's actually not the case. So this whole adventure and journey, especially starting from 17 onwards to like my mid-20s now, where I had this taste of like not being in my power, not being in my alignment, and doing things that really felt like a struggle and did not, in fact, quote unquote, feel good, and what outcome that came to. And then fast forward, I now decide to just surrender, to allow, to listen to that inner voice that might not actually make sense, but to go with that. And that's what really led me from Vancouver to Toronto on a one-way ticket on a 4-day train ride with no particular reason or purpose, or even it was like an open-ended journey, as it was a one-way train ticket, obviously. So I had this month in Toronto, and that's a whole other episode. And I'm like more now attuned to this state of flow where, travel, work, exploration, simply just living are just blended. Like it's not compartmentalized. I'm not like, um, I'm kind of living in a new city, but it's also open-ended. I'm not locked into anything. And now the idea has come to my mind that I'm untethering in some way. And that's also another episode. I go on about untethering. So at this point, I booked my flight from Toronto to Spain, and I'm like, okay, actually, this is a very popular route, and it's starting to almost seemed to me like there is some kind of an order here, an order that I didn't necessarily obviously plan myself, or any research. I wasn't like putting this together. I wasn't thinking like, obviously I'm kind of just going with this Marco Polo game type thing that I do, where I'm like, is it warmer? Is it cooler? And getting that intuitive hit from this guided feeling and sensation that I get. It's like the way that intuition speaks to me. And so I booked the ticket. I'm like, okay, well and it's actually not that far. It's not that big deal. So even though it's like you're flying overseas, you're going to a whole new country, I'm like, okay, it's actually not that long of a flight. It's actually just a few, like $300 or something. And now I'm like, well, I need to get some currency. I need to maybe unlock my phone so that I can get a SIM card to use. And so it's this whole idea of untethering from this way of life that I feel, you know, had been this idea you just work and you just live and then you just do the same thing for the most part every day. It was really untethering myself. I'm like, what did I just do for the last month? I was just in Toronto for a month and really not really like here nor there in a sense, like a bit like a limbo, a bit of it. But at the same time, I'm also recording this now in 2025. So I've had like 9 years since this situation, which was in February 2016. And that's where, at this time it felt so like unknown, like this feeling of there's like, going forward, everything feels like a big deal. It's only in hindsight you're like, what? Like that was like such, I'm like such a like it was like baby me. I'm like I was just on the brink of this international adventure. And since then I've now been to like close to 60 countries solo. And for like a month at it, like months at a time. It's like the norm for me now. In fact, that's another episode I expand on, just this idea of adjusting to a new norm. And so it's interesting how you quickly whatever you feel is like outside of your comfort zone or outside of the way that you normally think, it's nothing to do with what is actually possible or true or what is actually happening out there. It just means that your perspective is rather limited at the time. So, this is where the idea of listening to your intuition, just the power and the magic in that is really where the human mind, if you've ever heard the idea that a lot of times we don't operate in full capacity of our human mind. It's like, in whatever variation of the quote is, it's like we're only using, like, we're not tapping into the full potential. And I feel like a big piece of that is that untapped potential of like the human, like the spiritual, dimensional, intuitive aspect that has more to do with the psychic senses and like the larger energetic field aura, beyond your human form part of you that really is, in many ways untapped as yet. And so in this case, I was really expanding beyond just like that very limited sense of just like, okay, you just go to education, then you go to employment, and then you just go here and there on a daily basis and just stay in one place. Like kind of just that like very, in a way, limited way, compartmentalized and feeling very basic in a way. So at this point, looking back at this time, I'm like, you know, wow. The fact that at this time it felt like such a big deal, like, wow, I'm going on this big adventure. And yes, it's still a big adventure. Like it's the magic that I felt at that time, like every time I think back to this period, I can still feel that same feeling. Like the feeling there still exists. And even if I go like on these journeys now, maybe it doesn't have that same quality. Like there's a certain magic in like the first time that you're really discovering something, you're going on this journey and adventure, and it feels like novel and uncertain and this like a feeling of a bit of like nervous excitement. Like there's this good feeling of nervous energy where you're anticipating, you're eager, you're not quite sure what's there, but it feels like there's something pulling you forward. There's this forward pulling motion. And this is where intuition, it's that, works in mysterious ways. It's this idea of moving from effort to not like effortless. So, it's this idea of allowing the world and to guide you. And to me, it's like the easy way to exist. And it's like, why would you not? To me, it seems like a no-brainer now because in the previous part of my life where I was in going through university and really struggling with that, not necessarily struggling with it like academic wise, struggling with it on a soul level, just feeling like, why does this feel so out of alignment for me? Why do I feel so like not at ease? And it was very clear to me that I I did not belong there, and yet I couldn't get out of that logical aspect of my mind or even like external influences, the fact that it was paid for me, I'm getting driven there every day. So it's just like everything is convenient, but it's not easy. And it's not easy in the sense that my soul was completely not in alignment with it. And then obviously I get out of university, I complete the degree, in fact, and that's like years of my life and almost like repeating that same habit of like keeping myself in that sensation of not really feeling good. So it's almost like this drumming that habit into your being that it's not a good feeling to practice because I think it took me a bit of unraveling from that to really reconnect with myself. And that was where Vipassana came in, where I was going through like cycling through the different jobs. And it was much the same thing with university. I'm like, I don't feel good. I'm not in alignment. I know this feels like a struggle for me. And, this is just wrong. Like for me, it's just that intuition. And yet that's where that I feel like this is something so like going to be in the past at some point where the struggle between the logical or all these conditionings that for some reason have passed on from generation to generation that no longer really suits like the new world coming in. I feel like that's going to be a thing of the past, but it's like for me that was really like on the brink of the stage where, someone like me coming to the world, it's like this pure idea of like this isn't right. And well, but there's all these existing structures and systems that kind of make it more convenient and more the norm to exist in this way. But then it's like your natural intuition and way of being and authentic alignment is, telling you something else. And it's this tug of war, right? And it's like, why does that even have to exist? So to me, that's where where the world is moving, where it's like, why would you even have to go through this tug of war in the first place? That already signifies a certain deficiency in just the consciousness of the world, the collective consciousness that is definitely shifting definitely shifted, and 2025 is a year of alignment. And I think this is just like something that's the norm has greatly shifted towards otherwise. Now it's actually more the norm to be nomadic, to be more location independent, to do things outside of the traditional ways of doing things. Obviously with the prevalence of the internet and now even becoming even more virtual and immersive, this is just going to look so incredibly obsolete at some point. So, it's this idea that so I think for some reason it's this idea that people think they have to do things, they have to effort, and they have to like make things happen. But why would you not just let things happen? It's almost like this feeling of Christmas Day is coming up, and you're like, oh my gosh, you're anticipating, and part of the joy is like the advent calendars. You're counting down the days, and you're getting in that festive and even just like the days leading up. You want to indulge in all the festive things, the hot chocolates, and like going out and about and shopping, and then just soaking up all of the energy, right? And there's so much fun to be had in that. And that's what following your intuition feels like. It feels like Christmas Day. It feels like there's a Christmas Day, like because there's this feeling of joy when you're following your intuition and just that natural pull. It's like you're allowing yourself to be naturally happy. And I feel like sometimes in every like when there's an event coming up or you're looking forward to something that you book a vacation, then you create that little Christmas upcoming Christmas effect, or there's a holiday coming up or some kind of celebration or notable milestone event, so you're always looking forward to like that one thing as that anchor to have that anticipatory excitement. But the thing is, this is what intuition is. You can have this every single day, every single moment, if you actually have a connection and a relationship with your intuition. So for me, it actually feels like that same feeling of like excitement that you would get from anticipating like an upcoming event or a celebration. For me, it's like intuition is a celebration in itself. It's like having this best friend forever, and it's like this like so fun, like always like celebrating a feeling of joy and aliveness and vibrancy. And it's really that key two-word phrase, feel good. That is literally the direction of your compass. That is your true north. When it's pointing in the direction of feel good, your intuition doesn't necessarily speak to you in like human logical terms. It's speaking to you in the ways that you can feel. It's like a it's you have to translate it from whatever ways that you sometimes it can be a sensation of like warmth or coolness. That's where the Marco Polo game comes in for me. Sometimes I get a feeling of like this feels warm, it feels like sunshine, it feels like expansive and joyful and uplifting. And the verses, it could feel cold or dark or a bit contracting. So sometimes that's like the actual feeling I get that guides me as to which way my intuition is leading me towards cooler or warmer Marco Polo, right? And when I am just on this journey, and I'm just flowing, it's this idea that I don't have to make anything happen. And that's really where the gift and the simplicity of life, I think that sometimes people like tend to overcomplicate life because they think you have to make something happen. They have to make sure they have a very clear schedule. They have to make sure that they, do all the things. And yeah, like, the thing is like being guided and inspired to action is a very different energetic space of approaching something than simply, almost like being without that connection. Is like that cord, that sense. The ironic thing is that, say, as I'm unlocking my phone to go abroad, and I'm getting this very clear idea that I'm untethering. I'm untethering energetically from this sense of being tied to these conditional rules of society or these structures and systems that are quite limiting. But conversely, like in parallel, I'm tethering more to myself, my own intuition, like the home within me that I carry wherever I go. It's like I'm my own person. So it's like I'm not necessarily, I'm tethering from like the external world in that sense, like being attached to a job, attached to a location, attached to a certain way of life and this and that, this living condition, this type of lifestyle, this place, this home, this job, this person, who knows, whatever it is. And you're becoming more connected to your intuition. It's like the cord between mother and child. When you're in the womb, you're essentially being fed by your mother through the cord that ties both the umbilical cord, right? It's that nourishment that feeds, that when you're in the womb, you're just being nourished. And that's actually the same thing that happens when you're out of the womb, but you don't, maybe you lose, so for some reason that connection is not as honored, or maybe it's not strengthened as you go through life. So it's like you need to remember it. And this is really what was happening at this time. I'm like connecting to that cord that links me with the greater part of myself. So it's that intuitive cord that I'm connecting with again. And so it's like this simultaneous untethering, like unlocking my phone is like the physical, practical, visible action I'm taking on the surface in the 3D world. But then there's also this energetic detachment and this untethering from, we're like, okay, I'm just gonna pop over to Spain now, I guess, for an unknown period of time. And just like really unlocking my mind in many ways from like, well, as if I need to know. I guess that doesn't really matter. I don't need to know, obviously. And, do I really have to say have a plan? Is there really such a thing as like planning ahead? Like this isn't a vacation, obviously. I'm not just going on vacation. Suddenly it's become like a way of life. And this is where I also suddenly started feeling very, very safe within myself. I'm like, but for some reason I feel very like excited. I feel enthusiastic. I feel like I'm up for the adventure. I'm like, the unknown is pulling me, the possibilities. And it's this feeling of joy and expansion. So it's a nervous energy, but it's also a positive one. And it's this feeling of being guided into your intuition. Your intuition is simply leading you. And this is where it's this intangible aspect that, unless you have that spirituality within you, or you have that idea or have come to connect with it more, it can feel a little bit like just an intellectual exercise. And Vipassana is really, I would say, the 10-day meditation retreat I had done that had grounded me a lot more into my body. So it became less of like being so just like existing in your head and like all your thoughts. And it really kind of brought me down to my center, like centered me, grounded me a lot more. And that's where I was really able to be more mindful and aware of like, how do I really feel about this, and caring more about I feel and how I feel, and having that sense of presence more than having this almost like too many thoughts in your head all at once, and or just thoughts that were coming from everywhere but your own soul. So I really have to say that's really, how I started becoming like how my adventure evolved over time. I talked about my journey to Vipassana and how that really led me home back to myself in many ways, and how even just allowing myself to wander and move as I felt and just listen to like how my body felt, that led me to Vipassana in the first place. And even the job hopping, that was just me simply living my truth in a way. I was like, I can't be contained in a particular place. Like, so I eventually just kind of popped out of those situations. And so it's like every step of the way, there's always a glimmer that's pulling you towards what is actually true for you. And so I wanted to just end off this episode by recapping on this notion. Can you allow your intuition to be like Christmas Day? Like that guy, like that every day is like a celebration when you're in cahoots with your intuition? Because for me, I don't actually wake up planning my day really. I don't need a schedule. I don't even really need to have it all figured out. Like I've become through all these years of just living in the flow really and just going where places on one-way tickets with no particular reason, like open-ended, and just kind of allowing, like just being in that space of like, you know what, I don't need to know. I really don't. It's all this extraneous ideas that actually are not necessary. And it's just like this really clean simplicity when you're just simply in the moment and you realize, there is no actual certainty that like a lot of times when you're in employment and education, that's where you feel like you have certainty, but you really don't in a way. And so it's like, to recap, like, how can you let intuition simply guide you? Like, can you hear intuition when she's speaking to you? Like, what are the sensations that you get? And are you able to almost like allow yourself to live with that total freedom and ease? Because that's really what it does feel like. It's like you don't have to do things alone. Like, you don't have to feel like you're having to make everything happen. Like, this is where that effortless ease really comes in, and where things kind of just work out. Like I mentioned, like this whole idea that looking in hindsight, I'm like, oh, well, it's interesting that I got pulled to Toronto and then things there kind of just converged. And then when I got pulled to Spain, I'm like, okay, well, that kind of worked out nicely and things also just converged there. And in the next episode, I'll really have to get more into what went down once I got to Spain, and even just that journey of completing my journey in Toronto and then repacking and moving onwards in the journey that was pulling me. So for this episode, I'm just recapping on the notion that intuition is your best friend. It is Christmas Day. It is that totally moment by moment anticipation and lifelong eager like excitement where every day gets to feel like a journey in itself because you're simply being guided. It's like you get to just come to this earth as an adventurer. Like you come to this earth and you're connected to the universe as you would by an umbilical cord of sorts, as you would to your mother when you're in the womb. And the universe is like the mother in a sense, and you're literally still a child in the world. So it's like even when you're outside of the mother's womb, like I still feel like I'm in a way attached with an umbilical cord, being like nourished by my intuition in a way, or being guided, or being given like being just provided for. And it's this idea of just letting yourself be a child, because there's no, I think there's like a certain conditioning that happens that you think you have to do things yourself, and suddenly you need to struggle or make things happen. And I actually had to undo all that and really just come back to that simple truth. I'm like, actually, no, that's why I felt so off for a while. It felt not good, is because I was living out of truth. When the actual truth is that life is meant to be easy, that you are a child of the universe, and that you are, connected by an umbilical cord. It sounds a bit like, I mean, metaphorically, you have your intuition. That's the larger part of you. And it's just this complete mindset shift. And it's really that difference in approaching life and just being in life that just flips the switch on to allow in more abundance and more flow and more ease. And in fact, a lot more joy and peace and all the good stuff. So that wraps up episode 13, and I'll see you in the next one.